Welcome to another edition of the Parental Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hayes, CEO and founder of VarsityConnects.com, where we try to help parents become more emotionally connected with their student athletes so they can all enjoy that athletic journey together as one solid, cohesive family. I'm joined today by a very special guest, a former Bison, former NFL player. The man is in the Hall of Fame wherever he plays. We have with us today Tazeem Wajid. And Tazeem, did I pronounce it correctly? Thanks so much for joining us.
Tazeem, that's it. Tazeem Wajid. That's it.
There you go. There you go.
Mhm.
I like to get people's name right. And I know your faith is very close to your heart, and we can discuss that as well. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about your life in the NFL, going from Howard University to the Bright Lights. I saw you play up in Buffalo in one of the coldest football games on record out there at
Yeah, yeah.
Orchard Park back in the
It
day.
it was crazy. It was crazy. The AFC Championship game, man. I'm telling you, we were one step away. We had the plane ready, and we were ready to go to Atlanta.
Oh,
Uh,
I bet.
when Joe got that concussion, man, that was it. We kind of that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That was a tough one.
Mhm.
That was a tough one. Were you ever surprised to find yourself? Did you ever just like have to pinch yourself and look around and say, man, I came from Howard U, which we call the Mecca. But now here I am, in an AFC championship game. I got to pinch myself. Did you ever look at yourself and say, wow, I can't believe I did this?
I don't know that I had the moment of I can't believe it. I always had a reverence for it, though, a respect for it, to the point where no matter what I attained or what level I reached, I mean, and really, Mark, to this day, man, I talk to other young players about it as well as retired players. I'm like, look, you're not bigger than the league. Like, oh, I don't care if you become a Hall of Famer. You're not bigger than the league. And
Right.
we are who we are as players because of the league. It's not, hey, the NFL is great because of Tim Watson, or you can call out the biggest name you want to call out. It is the NFL gave us the platform. Man, I'm gonna tell you, I appreciated it, I respected it, and I hold it in the highest regard because I was a real student of football, of success, of processes. And man, those numbers were crazy when you really see how it breaks down from the 30 million kids playing to the 1.2 million in high school to the 78,000 in college to only 1,696 on Sundays. And it's like, man, that's special, you know?
Absolutely. It takes a special person to be able to. I'm sure. Was he there when you were there?
Who?
Seth joined.
No, 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 no. No,
Oh, okay.
no, Seth was already. I don't think he was out of the league yet, but by the time I got to Philly, I think, he was kind of just trying to get a couple of, years, and he had gone wherever that last spot was that he stopped.
Right.
But he was
Right.
no longer
Right.
with the Eagles.
Right. Well, I ran into him a couple years into his playing career, and he mentioned the pain, which is why I ask. He said the game is just so painful. It's hard to even describe. I'd like to know your thoughts of dealing with the pain and the kind of advice you gave your kids when they were coming up, and it looked like they might have a chance to play in the pros.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I had a doctor's appointment today. We at 54 for me, obviously, different ages for everybody, but I'm 54 years old, and of course, dealing with all of the pains and the aches of having played football for as long as I did. But interestingly, man, I had a crazy pain tolerance. So I wouldn't call something painful that probably other guys did, which is probably why I got the nickname the Hitman, and would hit people the way it was to me, you talk about being able to take out all of your frustrations of the world and the challenges we go through. That's what football was for me, man. It was an outlet, and I was brutal on the football field. So I kind of, you talk about I kind of enjoyed that. I mean, I'm paying for it a little bit now, but I kind of enjoyed that. I'll tell you what was painful for me: the process of preparing
Ah,
every year.
right.
I tell people this every year, and I'm talking about from the time it kind of gets serious in high school and you're doing we had 3-a-days, bro. I mean, football has changed so much. You can't even do 2-a-days now. We had 3-a-days during my time. And you talking about the training, the prep to even be able to survive 3-a-days, right? Then going through the 3-a-days. And well, that every year there was a point in time, and I'd tell everybody, and I even have quizzed other football players. I said, bro, tell the truth. There's a point in time almost every year where you be like, do I really want to keep doing this? I mean, bro, that's when it was painful. For me, it's the preparation. The playing, I mean, during the season was a cakewalk for me, bro. I loved it. I mean, I couldn't wait.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that intensity, that love of the game, and how you kind of have to maybe separate yourself from that as a parent, especially with young athletes. I read that, Christian was constantly in the backyard, the play in the NFL, from the time he was a young guy. And you were right there with him. So,
Mm.
how do you separate that intensity that you had as a pro athlete it, from your parenting and the nurturing and loving side that we have to offer our kids too to help them become successful? Obviously, you did something right. You got two guys, to the pinnacle. And I'm sure you couldn't be much more proud of not just those two, but all your children.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. See, success again, I'm very fond of knowledge and learning the processes. So if there is something that can be done, let's say it's building a house. If you give me the plan and the processes, I'll build a house. So for me, it was learning what was needed in order to be successful, no matter what it was that you decided to do. So I do. I have 5 children. Trey is the oldest, who became a professional football player. He actually just retired this year. Christian is actually the youngest boy. I have a girl in the middle of them. So you have Trey, who's 28. You have Lexi, who's 27. She's an entrepreneur, owns her own business, does really well. You have Christian, who's 25. And then I have the 10-year-old twins, right? So I'm always told I have my own grandkids. But in terms of being there for all of them, the key to me, and I've always talked to my kids in a manner that let them be the owner of their destiny. And the way that you do that is you help them to be self-aware of their talents, right? Where are you strong? Where are you able to be excellent, great at something? Because ultimately, if you tell me I want to live, say, this kind of life, well, you can't live this kind of life if you want to pursue something where you have this kind of talent. And if you have this kind of talent, you want to live this kind of life, then more than likely you're setting yourself up for failure. So if you want to live this kind of life, we're trying to discover where you have this kind of talent. And if that talent matches your passion and your preparation and what you actually are willing to do, then we're going to reach it. And that has been the case with all of my kids in terms of, like I said, with Trey, he fell in love with football. With Lexi kind of fell in love with being successful in areas where she would find something she really loved. It's real estate now, but it's more so investing. So where do you find something that you can make grow? And so her business again is in investing in the real estate. And so we're able to own her passion, people skills, right? She's very smart. All of the kids, thankfully, really, really smart, but honing those people skills, the who you know type of things. Okay, then of course here comes Christian. Christian ends up being the most physically gifted of our entire family, and I myself was on another level of physical giftedness. He took it to another level. So when he fell in love with football, it was a matter of, okay, son, he was kind of behind the 8 ball with growing. So we just figured, okay, it'll happen at some point. Why did we believe that? Because no man in our family is under 6'3". So it's like, okay, some point this young man, he's gonna start growing a little bit, right? He
Right.
just maybe, he's behind the eight ball. And now he, of course, what did he do besides being the most physically gifted? He grew past all of us. Now he's also the tallest. And so for them, again, it was a matter of helping them to really be self-aware, discover their own skills, their own talents, their own passions, and then show them the work it takes in order to be the success that they said they want to be. That's the thing, what you just said earlier, right? As a parent who has been to the mountaintop and been very passionate about something, one thing you can end up doing is overwhelming your kids with what you want. What I want is for
Right.
my kids to be productive. I don't want them to do a particular thing besides be productive. I know people like to say they want their kids to be happy. No, 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 no. It's not just about being happy, because let me tell you something.
Right.
There are a lot of happy degenerates. They're doing nothing. They're just happy
Right.
in their home and living in their parents' basement. I want my children to be productive, because guess what? Along the road to productiveness, there are some things that are not going to make you happy. Okay? You have to
Absolutely.
actually work through, right? You have to show your children the path to success that includes those challenges that make people who aren't passionate about what they're doing quit.
Right.
Now, that's that area where, and I'll kind of wrap this up right here. That's that area where it can't be what you want. It has to be what they want. So you
Absolutely.
want to know why these kids who have the talent, they don't make it? Why it happened? A lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases, it's because it wasn't what they wanted. So when they reach that ultimate point, that point where you have to go to that fork in the road, you say, man, this thing is hard. My God, I'm going to do something else. And that's what they do. They do something else. But if this is their thing, there is no fork in the road that they will make them turn the other way. If it's their thing, this is what I want. This is my journey, and the success is mine. So, that's what it was about.
Yeah. As a pro athlete, was it more, did the kids feel pressure? And how did you communicate to them, "This is what it takes to be a pro. This is the steps that we need to take," and have them receive it? Because I'm constantly talking to parents right now, especially parents who are involved in real competitive travel league sports and so forth. They're always saying, "Well, can you tell my son or daughter that?" Because they won't hear it from me. From your perspective as a pro athlete, they can't say, "My dad don't know what he's talking about." Now, my hockey player, he knew I didn't know what I was talking about. I couldn't play hockey, right? But you
Well,
know the game. You
it,
played the game. How did you communicate to them so
it,
that they could receive it?
but see, that's just it. You have to actually be able to bring to children experiential success. So if
Mm.
you're not the one who has success in that area, you're not the best deliverer of the message. You have to find what I look at and say a personal role model. So who is the personal role model in that particular area? Now, in the case of my boys, thankfully, obviously, I did what they desired to do. In the case of my daughter, that was literally my second career, was doing what she ended up desiring to do, which was going into financial services, real estate investment, and those areas. Being able to, so whether it was myself or even my network, because see, that's another thing. It's who you also have around your children. What do we say about friends? If you find, and this is for anyone, right? You tell your kids, find your five closest friends. I want you to look at them. That's you. If you don't realize what your reflection is, so if you're walking around always, you get back home talking about how dumb your friends are, how stupid they are, or what they that's you. That's literally exactly what people see in you. So that's what it is. You got to kind of think about the network that you have your kids or that you allow your kids to be in because we're the
Mhm.
parents. At some point, we have to take the accountability in the position of parenting. And, we've gotten into an era that's where parents want to be too much their kids' friends. And the fact of the matter is, if you're raising your kids trying to be friends with them, then you're going to end up with a rude awakening at some point where you find out you weren't parenting, you weren't guiding, you weren't leading. And that's where you as an experienced individual have the role to be able to bring into your kids' life, whether it's you. In my case, I was able to bring some personal experiences of success and processes and what needed to be done. Or in the cases like my youngest daughters now, they actually are more in tune with the fine arts, right? And it's an area I enjoy, but it wasn't an area I took myself personally. I'm actually a really good artist, but was never formally trained. So I can't formally train them, right? Because I wasn't formally trained to do what I do. I don't know the processes. This was
Right.
just a natural gift. So what I do is they are in a fine arts elementary school and they just tested 2 days ago to go into a fine arts academy for because they're in the fifth grade now, they'll be going to middle school and they'll be in a fine arts middle school. So you put them in the environment that's going to actually help develop, right? And bring them into their excellence in the areas in which they're passionate.
Right, right. Makes perfect sense. So let's talk about the changing landscape of parenting these days, especially for student athletes, because social media has changed the game. Have either of your guys asked you about how to manage social media, their brand, the league, the shield? Because we know how important that is, especially, if you happen to play for a storied franchise. Well, they're all storied, all 32 of them, but Miami, for example, the only franchise
Mhm.
with a 17-0 team, Green Bay, of course, title town, that's a delicate tightrope. And I just wonder what kind of conversations you guys had about that and what kind of warnings you give them, again, during the communication process so that they can receive it and understand why you're telling them this.
Well, more than anything, Mark, I'm going to tell you that our children's discernment really was just a natural part of the developmental process. So it was ongoing. This was not something that needed to necessarily be suddenly introduced. I mean, they just were developing the discernment of what to do, what not to do, what's okay in that environment. And we would expose them. I would expose them to a mistake, right? By a young recruit. Somebody mess up their whole career, lose all their offers because of something dumb they did
Right.
on the internet. So there were examples, obviously, that were delivered to them, but at the same time, it was just a continual part of the development. So when it got to the stage of, okay, now it's time, you're going through this part of your life. Well, it was then about getting the right people in place. So part of the process of selecting an agency, for instance, is it's not just about negotiating contract anymore, right? It's media prep. You're also going to have, especially if you are a more high profile player, someone who might be wanted for marketing or, like Christian's handsome. So they kind of like his face on things, So if you're going to be that type of guy or that type of entity, then there's a certain presentation for that type of entity, right? And all of that prep, all of how you become that, you need to have the right people around you. And look, Christian's agency Man, can't even imagine having a better setup in terms of how they manage his career, how they are continually with how they touch base with their, from their physical all the way up to, as you know, as an athlete, the emotional and mental that needs to be fostered. You have
Absolutely.
to continue to make sure that you're feeding into that, and that whole setup, man, is excellent in that regard. So, we
Wow.
were a part of that process. So
Okay.
that's really how I can answer that one, is that it was ongoing, just part of the developmental, the raising and the exposure, pointing out the rights and the wrongs. This is what you would like to do. This is not it. This is not what to do. We thankfully we never had any of those issues. They really are on a different level of maturity. And I don't know how many of Christians interviews you've been able to hear, but I mean he's just on another level, man. He's a very mature 25-year
Yep.
old
Years.
who he really
Years. Yeah.
he gets it. He gets it, man.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a woman, how much you pour into your family as a whole. And that's what I think is missing a lot from today's environment is the family aspect of it. Remember when the whole family used to go and watch youth football game? Like,
Mhm.
can't do that anymore because you got to travel 2 states over and you might have to get a hotel. And so we've started to tug away and pull apart the fibers of the family and that togetherness. And I
Mhm.
think it is weighing on young people today. And now throw into the mix NIL. So you're going to offer a kid like Bryce Underwood $10.5 million to go up to play quarterback for University of Michigan. And you may be able to point out a tough time or two that you helped your boys through that, they really needed you. They really needed mom or dad to lift them up and support them. And now we're doing that for even younger men. A 22, 23-year-olds couldn't handle millions of dollars before. Now we're giving it to 18-year-olds.
Right.
So moms
Right.
and dads have to be able to step in. What was your approach to offering that support if the guys thought they didn't play well, if they missed a tackle, if something didn't go their way? Well, how did you approach that?
The thing is, I am going to be, especially, when it comes to the game, I am going to be the first critic anyway. So I'm sharing with them what happened honestly, right? So we've already gone through that. So what people say, or what the outside world says, what they don't realize is they really going to have any effect. We've handled it already. We know what was done wrong and what needs to be done and all that type of stuff. When you're talking about the negative parts, and I'm going to encourage my kids regardless because, again, one of the things, man, mental health is huge in that environment. It's stressful enough to have to go out there and perform in the way that they have to, right? They need to have some balance as it relates to, yes, there's the challenge, there's the critique, but there's always you always have to end with the encouragement, the positive part. You always have to pour that in there. And so, we've been consistent with that with them from day one. Again, I'm the biggest critic, but I'm the biggest fan. And with that, they get it. They get the whole realm. Like nothing nobody else says from the outside. Christian, for instance, Christian doesn't even he doesn't even it does absolutely nothing. People can post and talk about any and everything they want to. It's Christian's in his probably in his room, playing Fortnite with his boys at that point.
Right.
He's not dealing with that. That's just not. It's not going to do it because he has already handled it professionally, you know, messed up. Can't do that anymore. Now, what do I need to do and correct and to do the right thing, next time? We've gone through all that. And then, okay, these are all the things I did well that I need to continue to do, So we've
Gotcha.
gone through the entire process already. And you know, Christian and I, we're more so a touch base in the moment type of thing.
Okay.
Trey and I are pretty much every day.
Right.
So uh it's dripped like just consistently. Christian, it's just different because again, this is where you have to learn your child, learn how they receive, how they communicate, how they actually what they really even desire, right? From you.
Right.
If you're overdoing it, see, I know there probably almost is no overdoing it for Trey because he's gonna hit me up as much as I hit him up, right? Whereas for Christian, you kind of realize, okay, yeah, just okay, a couple of times, that's that's it. Let him go. So that's just it. Learning how they receive, how you encourage, how you critique, and man, we're golden.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Tazeem, I want to congratulate you, man, on a great career, on a great career and journey as a father, as a man, as a bruh. I really appreciate and respect what you've been able to accomplish, man. It ain't easy raising a young black family these days, and especially going back to the well and having 10-year-old twins right now. I know you need all the strength and uplift you can give, my brother. But hey, before I let
No
you
doubt.
go, tell me a little bit about Hitman's Haven podcast with you and Trey.
So look, man, back in the spring, we finally dipped into the media world with our podcast, Hitman's Haven. And it is an NFL podcast with a focus on the Green Bay Packers. Right now, we do obviously cover other aspects as well. We plan to also broaden into really almost kind of like the topics you and I just talked about. The
Sure.
beyond the field, the life outside of sports as well, because we do have such a large family and a pretty large reach. But you can find us on YouTube. We're on Spotify and we're also on Apple Podcasts. And again, that's Hitman's Haven. In addition to that, you can certainly find us on social media. We're on X as well as Instagram and Blue Sky, by the way. Hitman's
All
Haven
right.
is on X, and then on all of the three, you'll find me as NFL Hitman 33. Azim
All right.
Wajid Wajed.
And we'll post those links for you too when we post this episode. So Tazim, thank you so much, man. What a pleasure, man. I'm honored that you would spend a few minutes with me to address this topic. It's a topic that's close to my heart, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes out to spend this time with me and our audience.
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate you reaching out to me. Man.
Good